Happy Friday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of You've Gotta Be Sha Tinning Me. I am joined, as always, by Mr. Matt Carlson. Matt, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing well. I had a nice little Wednesday this week, so it's kind of kept me afloat. I have not set it all on fire just yet. So
Yeah, we were just talking before that I had a nice little Sunday, and I have set it all on fire. But I haven't set it so on fire that I'm like stuck at least. So we'll take the positives where we can get them. But yeah, it's been I don't know, man. I like Wednesday. I didn't get much of a chance to play, but I saw you hit the late pick three, so kudos to you on that. You apparently got an additional Twitter follower from our friend Nick Sievers, so he was apparently touting your stuff. And what's crazy is as they're well, I don't know if he had an East Coast guy messaging him, but he's on the West Coast, so like Happy Valley's going off at like what,
uh
3 a.m.
yeah, 2:40 I think is the first race because I'm
Oh,
I'm waking up at like and granted the nice part about this, like, so obviously time changes this weekend. Hong Kong does not shift their times. So Sha Tin gets worse for me. Like Sha Tin starts going off at like 1:30 in the morning now instead of 12:30, or 12:30 instead of 11:30, whatever. But Happy Valley at least goes back to like 6:40 in the morning, which is reasonable. Before, my wife is always like, "What the hell are you doing setting a 5:30 alarm and firing bets off?" You know, but love the game. You gotta get up and
mm,
do it. The problem with it, right, is like most ADWs don't let you pre-wager or at least wager in advance
yeah,
before that. So like, it's you gotta grind, rise and grind. But 2:30 is insane.
yeah,
5:30 is kind of insane. 2:30 is
yeah.
nuts. But by the time it rolls around to the pick five, it's at least 5:30, 6:30 his time. So
I know
something
we
like
were
that.
looking. So we were looking at flights today for my 40th birthday out to Vegas, and um, there was a 7:15 flight out of here, and I always hear that, and I'm like, 7:15, that's not that bad. But then it's like, my wife is very much you get to the airport 2 hours early, right? So now that's 5:15. And it's 40-minute drive to the airport. So now we're like 4:30, and it's like, okay, maybe that's a little much. I've done it numerous times at Vegas. And like if it's the cheapest flight, like I definitely I will do it. I remember last time I I got to Vegas at like it was like 8:30, 9 o'clock. I'm in the Luxor like with my bag, and my room wasn't ready. Obviously, I mean sometimes I've had some luck with MGM, and usually like even at like 9 or 10 o'clock, my room will be ready. And so I was like, oh, I'll just go crash. But I was like, no, it wasn't. It didn't end up being ready till 3. And so I started playing craps and other stuff, and started stuck a couple hundred dollars before I even got to my room. But
Something about waking up at like 2 in the morning and then flying out there and just being like, "Oh, I'll just gamble until I can take a
yeah,
nap." Like, brain's not firing on all cylinders with those
no,
days. But
no, but it's funny because like I listen to some podcasts, and like there's a guy who like he'll go and he'll take that morning flight out, and then he'll just be like he'll like stay like the one night, and then he just flies back. But he's like, yeah, I just like he like gambles all morning, and then he goes up, takes a nap, gets dinner, kind of has an early night, then wakes up again early in the morning, plays, and then he takes the red eye back home. And I'm just like the red eye, like the next night, and I'm like, man, I'm like, I don't know. I know, like people say, like, oh, like you can only do like a weekend in Vegas, but I'm like, man, like I like to space it out a little bit, like not have to, go too degen too quick, but
I,
um,
I think my Vegas record was 9 straight days, which I don't recommend. There's an in between.
was bowling involved with that or
No, 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 no. That
oh
was
man,
I had a work training. I had a bachelor party coming up into Vegas, which lasted like basically like Friday to Monday, and work had a training, like a mandatory training I had to go to, which was like a nationwide thing. So I was like, oh, why don't you pay for my flight out to Vegas? But thinking they would never approve that, and they're like, oh, okay, like yeah, fine. So that was get in on Sunday. Uh, Sunday morning was like the early flight, so I was there Sunday to Monday, so I guess 8 days. But yeah, it that wears on you. Especially the problem is like, it's training. So you're going out afterward, you're doing that.
Yeah.
And then all your buddies get there on Friday ready to go. And you're like, your liver is 5 days deep already. You're like, ugh.
Yeah,
So,
my parents told me they told me like when they went out to Vegas with like a big family group, and this is like I was before this was when I was a kid, and they were gonna go for the weekend, so they were gonna fly in like Thursday night and come back Sunday. Real typical kind of like from Chicago. That's about the minimum I would probably do, and even then, like the problem for me ends up becoming that those are like the expensive flights because that's when everybody's flying.
yeah.
So, but my like my uncle and I think a couple of my uncles like when they went out early, they went out like they're like, no, we're gonna go for the whole week. Well, my parents fly in Thursday night. They're already broke. They're already like, no, no, we got no money. We spent, we already did, XYZ. Like we did all this, like, and they're like, what the heck? Like, what are you out there for a whole week? But we're gonna go in. I think a night. I think Mark might be flying in Wednesday night as well. Um, but he's actually looking at maybe playing some World Series of Poker. He might try and play an event or at least maybe get into like one of like the sit and go type
Satellites,
or cash
qualifiers,
games or
whatever. Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, because we're gonna be there during the World Series of Poker. And I sent him the schedule. I'm like, do it, man. You always talk about wanting to play poker. Like, come in a day or two early and do it. And but my wife and I were kind of like, like we like going downtown like for a night, and we've never stayed downtown. So I actually got a call tomorrow. I'm gonna call Circa up and see what kind of rate I can get for a night. So I think we're gonna try and stay at Circa for a night. Probably. I mean, I'm just gonna pay for it because I'm not
Well,
gonna
you're on a
get.
gambling podcast. Come on, that's got to be a couple bucks off, right?
I mean, I don't know. Like I mean, honestly, like I would probably just take the room at the D for free, but we've wanted to stay at Circa, so we're like, yeah, whatever. We'll go hang out there for the night and just kind of go do some stuff downtown, and then everyone else starts flying in like Thursday, Friday, and then we're gonna do like a group dinner on Saturday. So it's just kind of like I think before the craziness of like everyone else coming in for that trip. So, but it should be fun. Last time we did that, uh, I told my wife, I'm like, hey, I think when we land, I'm like, let's just put our bags away and get in an Uber and go to Circa like right away. And like we were like landing at like 9, right? It was like a 6 p.m. flight out, So like right? It's like 9 o'clock, and so like we go, and I remember like we wanted to get pizza at this place downtown. I think it was Pizza Rock if I remember correctly, and but they're open till like 1. So I remember we get there and we check our bags, we check into the room, we freshen up like 10-15 minutes in the room, right? Call an Uber, go there. And dude, we hit the ground running. We just like, we go to Vegas Vicky's, which is a bar in Circa, right? We get a couple cocktails, we start gambling, and like, we're hitting machines, doing all this other stuff. And then, like, I turn to my wife, I'm like, we should go get pizza. She's like, well, they're closed. And I'm like, what do you mean they're closed? They're open till 1. And then I look at my watch, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. So I was just like, oh, and she was like, honestly, she's like, eh, this was like kind of like a weird, like, it had a stressful couple weeks, a month or whatever. And she's like, honestly, she's like, you were just having such a good time. She's like, I didn't want to tell you. I'm like, she's like, it's been a rough couple weeks. So like time just flew by. We ended up going back to our hotel and we found, there's like a little like back in the corner at Park MGM. There's like a little like hot dog, hamburger, like fries, that kind of stuff, and we just like grabbed whatever we could from there. Went up to the room, ate something at like, and we probably passed out like 3 in the morning that first night. Um, and yeah, it was like I said, we hit the ground running. So this time we were like, we're gonna do the same thing, but one, we're gonna stay downtown, and two, we're gonna get in a little bit earlier. So I think we're gonna get in at like 6 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock. So that way, we're not DJing until 3. But
Well,
it's
maybe.
maybe, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. My father-in-law gave me cash for Christmas. He always gives us cash, and it's usually like $100 or something like that. And like I don't know, his investments would be doing pretty good because I told my wife that his Christmas gifts are exceeding inflation, and so I think that's going to be my bankroll for the first night, and we'll kind of see what happens from there, but it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Before heck, even before that, we're going to be going to Dublin next month. So that's gonna be a fun trip. My wife's already planning, a bunch of like walk. She's looking for a walking tour, and we're gonna go to Guinness and Jameson, maybe even Teeling, like a bunch of places. So um, yeah, it's gonna be fun. She's already said that she wants to keep count of how many Guinnesses we drink. So
Good luck.
yeah, it should
You
be a
know,
good time.
not having kids sounds really nice sometimes.
I mean, that's great, man.
Love my
I
kids.
would
They're
say you
great.
should try it, but
I
that's
got.
already
I'll talk to you in about 18 years.
yeah, yeah. Um, but let's talk about this late pick 3 here at Sha Tin. It's gonna start race 9, Class 3 racing, the Kowloon Tong Club Trophy. We're gonna be going 1,600 meters, the 1 turn mile. Um, I don't know. I thought the Zach horse, the 6, the red hair, looked like the horse to beat in this race. I have him as my top pick in here. Obviously, Zach's going to get a board. That's going to absolutely murder the price on this horse. Um, but this horse has got races that obviously fit in here with this group. But the presence of Zach, I think, is going to chop this price in half. So you're probably looking at 7-2, maybe on this horse, 4-1. So I think he's going to be just bet every which way. And really the only alternative I thought you could go with is the 5 Power of Vitum, and this is the horse that won at 47-1 last time out. So you're obviously not getting that price here. Matthew Poon stays aboard, and this is this horse beat the red hair last time out. Um, so yeah, I think those are your two kind of like logicals in here. Maybe you'll still get a little bit of a price on the 5, but I assume the fact that one last time out, I mean you're probably gonna get 5 or 6-1 there on the 5, and probably even shorter on the 6. But that's kind of where I ended up in this race. There wasn't too much else I was interested in here, but curious to see where you landed.
Yeah, so I actually thought this was probably the toughest race of the sequence.
Okay.
I think you just have a lot of horses that are coming out of shared races that I didn't really know what to do with. There's a restricted race that I think 3 horses are coming out of, like Glittering Legend, Natural Numbers, and Dude. Um, there's the race you talked about, Power of Vitamin, Red Hair, are both coming out of. That's kind of a tough race to gauge for me. I just didn't really know what to do with it. Um, and honestly, with that race, I look at my data, and the horse I want out of that race is neither of them, according to my stuff. The horse that I'm taking out of that race is actually the 14 Seamus Storm. And maybe I shouldn't trust my data on this because it is pretty close, but you know, he obviously was breaking from a pretty bad draw that time, had to pull back, closed into a pretty slow pace from deep there. Because he finished in 6th, he's the one not picking up weight from that race. He obviously gets a much better draw into the 3 now. I don't think it's that far away, but I do think people are going to see that shared race and say, "Hey, this 14 has no chance in here," because obviously he lost to both the red hair and Power of Vitum in that race. I think it's closer than you think, and I think just because of the price, and hey, if I have any doubt, I'm obviously going to take the low weight and high, good draw. I think Seamus Storm to me is the value in here. Again, in what I think is a pretty tight race, like That's the one that I'm going to try and go with. I'm going to try and get around both the 5 and the 6. That's probably stupid, but
Hmm.
hey, I don't think I don't think they're huge standouts, and I think they're going to get bet like they are standouts in here. And if I lose, so be it, right? I can fire back the double afterward. But Seamus Storm, I think, is the one that I'm going to probably go to on the win line in here. Um, that said, I think I'm probably going to use 2 or 3 other horses in here as well. I do like the 9 and Dude. I think he's probably the most talented horse in this race. He just keeps getting absolutely screwed on draws, right? Like, I mean, you look at it, the last 3, he hasn't never had a chance inside of 10 at class 3. He's not going to get another chance here because he's still stuck out in the 14 post. You know, I don't know. I want to bet that horse. If you get a decent enough price on him, like above like 10-1, he's probably still worth betting. And maybe you get it just because of the draw. But, I think as soon as that horse gets a draw, he's going to get bet. I'm pretty sure, just because he does keep running pretty well, even with those like kind of bad runs. Um, and the other two that I think I'm going to take in here, I'm going to go back to taking the boombox. I have no idea what to do with this horse. I still don't know what this horse wants. The 1600 race two back kind of looked okay, to be honest with you. He had Dylan McGonigal up. He broke from the 11 post. He closed in pretty well. It's just like I don't know how they're campaigning this horse, to be honest with you. Like, he's been running everything, right? Like, he runs 1400, 1600, 1800. He's run at Happy Valley in 1650. He's run 1800 at Happy Valley. Like, I can't tell you what they want to do with this horse, and I think it's really screwing him up. So I don't know if 1600 is what this horse wants either, but I do think there is still some ability there. Who knows, right? Like, he's talented for sure. Maybe the mile helps. The two back race I think is probably on my stuff his best fig. So maybe that indicates he can actually do something. He's got a decent enough draw. He's in the one post. Jimmy Orman can't screw it up that bad.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I'm gonna try the boombox, I think, just based on the price. I think you're gonna get, double digits on him, decent double digits for a horse that, you look back a little bit running a Happy Valley, he was, going off favored, right? So maybe there's something there. I do think he's value. And then the last horse that I'll take, again, who has absolutely no draw, is the two Family Jewel, right? I mean, this is the old angle that I, used to tout on here a lot. I love horses off layoffs, right? I mean, I think layoffs are a huge weapon out here just because you don't know how that horse is going to run. And in a field that I think is pretty flat, sometimes these horses come back pretty fresh and they run really well. And a couple things that you want to look at, right? I mean, one, Casper Founds is pretty good off these long layoffs. If for layoffs over 250 days, I think he's 2 for 9. That's not a dead lock, but that's profitable, right? If you just bet every time he's betting, huge layoffs here, um, you'd be making money. It's just odd, right? Like, they keep running him at 2,000, they keep running him at 1,800. He's got 3 wins. They're all at 1,600. He's 3 for 3 at
Hmm.
1,600, right? So, and granted, I mean, those are different races. Those are done in class 4, et cetera. But like, if you get a horse that's going to go off at a pretty big price, it's never lost at the distance. Like, 3 for 3 is in that territory where you're like, hey, maybe this horse really wants to do this, and maybe he's going to come back, strong enough. And yeah, the draw sucks, but he's got Bowman up. I don't know. In a field that I don't really love, I'm going to take all the prices I can get. So, I'll toss in the 2 as well, in case he's coming back fresh, even with the poor draw. So, I'll be 3 or 4 wide here between the 1, 2, the 9, and the 14. Um, in some order, I'll probably win bet the 14. I mean, who knows? I might win bet all these horses if they're above
Hmm.
10-1. Like, just kind of bet it pretty flat. But this is what I'm just trying to get around the favorites and see if something sticks.
All right. We'll move on to leg 2 here, the Essex handicap, 1,200 meters, class 1 racing. Where'd you land here?
Yeah, I mean, Fast Network should just be better than this field, right?
Hmm.
Like, he's going to be bet that way. I mean, he's going to be bet like he's finally running a race that Kanye Rising isn't in,
Hmm.
and like, that's a great angle, right? He's not beating Kanye Rising, um, but the problem is, right? Like, he's going to take a ton of money just because of that. People are going to see, oh, look, he's closing in on Kanye Rising. Like, how great a horse is he? Um, he's on the rail. He's got Zach, right? Like, and there's not really any much in here. I don't think any of the horses in this race really want 1200, which for a a pretty high rated race is kind of weird. 1200 is a pretty pretty obvious distance, right? Like it's a distance that horses really want. I don't think any of these horses are like 1200-meter specialists. Look like they all either want longer. Or a couple horses are look like they'd like to run the straights better. I don't know. Um, but it's like Patcha Theta needs longer. Tomodachi Kokoro finally came back to earth. I don't know what the hell like got into him at the start of the year, but it's probably gone. Um, a horse like even like Storm Rider in the 7, I think is carrying just too much weight for his ability. So look, I, Fast Network should win. He's probably going to be super short. I if you want, you can single. I'm going to try and at least use a couple others in here. I will use Fast Network as an A just because again I don't really have anywhere else to go. Um, the two other horses that I'll use in here, though, one is the 8 Invincible Shield, who I have mapping just a little bit better than the 11, who he, lost to kind of last out on in February 14th. Um, I think you look right, like he's dropping a ton of weight because it's back to class 2, right? Like he was a little bit wider in that race. He was closing in, just kind of missed by, short head in that race. And frankly, like, Francis Loy is hotter than anybody at Sha Tin, right? He's got 14 winners of the last 50 days out of 58 races. So he's hitting at 24%. He's got 14 under other horses hitting the board. So that's upwards of like 48%. He's hitting the board at races at Sha Tin in the last month and a half. That's insane, right? I mean, these are 12 to 14 horse fields. Hitting the board at 48% is, I don't think I've seen that. So, he's got the hot hand in here. And I think Invincible Shield could just run well enough and be a high enough price to be worth betting over Fast Network. So I'm going to use him. The other horse that I'll use, I think, is the 10 Invincible Sage, and I know he's been running at 1,000 meters, so it's kind of tough to say, hey, does this horse really want to take a turn? Um, but if you look at it, he does have back races to compete, right? Like you got to go a little bit of a ways back. The last time he ran at 1,200 at Sha Tin, he's breaking from the 14 post. He was breaking from the middle of the Xingmeng River. You can toss that race out, and otherwise, he has back races that do kind of fit. Like if you go back to last season, so he's going to be a huge price. I think it's worth taking a shot with him just because he has been competitive up in those group races, even at the distance, and he's going to be Lord knows what price. I mean, he's going to be at least double digits, if not 20 to 1. So I think he's worth a chance. I'll throw him in. I'll probably use all those as A's just because I don't want to, miss a price on the 8 or the 10 or play it for less. But I won't be surprised if Fast Network just, romps by a couple lengths and, you know, doesn't pay that much.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the one just looks like far and away the best horse in this race. And I had a hard time not using the horse. So I'm going to use that horse as a lone A in this spot. And I think you said it best. I mean, this is a horse that's been in group company this entire time. I think gets Zach, gets the rail, and gets a humongous amount of class relief here. So it's just tough to bet against there. And obviously the last 3 races at 1,200 have actually looked really good. So at least compared to like the rest of the field, right? I mean, running second to Kiting Rising, even if it is by open lengths, there's still a bunch of other horses in that race that he beat, and good horses. Um, the only other horse I was interested in is I was actually interested in the 6 Stellar Express. Um, Honestly, I would be higher on this horse if it wasn't for the draw, but I mean, it's John Size time, man. Like this, like he's gotta start picking up and start heating up here. And you just look at this horse, coming off of 3 straight wins, in Class 3, won a Group 3, and then in Class 2. Granted, those are all, 1,000-meter races. Stretching out to the 1,200 meters here. Adding the turn. And this is a horse that hasn't won. Here at Sha Tin going 1,200 yet. So, um, yeah, I think there are questions, but this is a horse that's coming in really, really hot. And I mean, like I said, I think I'd be much more interested if this horse was not drawing so far wide. But I think based on numbers, based on ability, based on kind of form, I think is a horse that looks really interesting in here, and I think you'll probably get an okay price on this horse just because people are going to see Group 3, Class 3, Class 2. Maybe this horse gets a little lost on the board and they see the 1,000 meters. I don't know. Interested to see what kind of price we get on the six, but I thought he was interesting in here as my lone B. So I'll be using the one and then the six Stellar Express. Move on to race 11, 1,400 meters, the Cumberland Handicap, Class 3 racing. And yeah, I ended on another John Size horse in here in the three Super Express. Um, you know, I I mean, I just think that these races are just better than everybody else. I mean, um, seems to be a very, very consistent type. Um, I do think that there may be a couple other horses in here that have run some races that match up with what the three has done, but the three is definitely going to be on all my tickets here. Just, I mean, an incredible run of form. Going back to last year, and came back, after basically 7 months off and picked up where he left off with a win, a second, and another, a second, a win, and another second there, all at pretty short prices. So I'll have Super Express on my tickets. And then I think for alternatives, I think the four winning ovation, um, lightly raced horse, only five lifetime starts, two here at Sha Tin, needed the race, I think, first time out, and then won going this route of distance last time by a length, and then comes right back here, gets a decent draw in the four post again, and I think I love seeing these lightly raced horses. Now, granted, right, we're going coming off a pretty big layoff. Like, what the reason for that layoff is, I don't know, but we'll see if this horse will be ready to fire fresh here. So I like the four winning ovation, and then the one Chu Chow Spirit. I just think that I this is a horse that's got races that fit here, but you got to go way back. This is a horse that has not been necessarily running um, in the best of form. I actually really think that the class drop's going to help. I think coming back to the 1,400 meters is going to help because all three of his Hong Kong wins have been at 1,400 meters. So I think coming back to 1,400 meters after kind of a mixed run of form here and dropping in class is going to be good for Chu Chow Spirit. Gets Hugh Bowman to stay aboard. And hopefully with the drop in class here, slightly easier, and then the cut back will be enough here for the one Chu Chow Spirit. So I have him as a C type. I mean, he'll probably end up being a B, but just kind of my third choice in here. So I'll be 3, 4, and 1 in here. Maybe a little bit of interest in a horse like the 12 Rising Phoenix, who seems to kind of be that every other type of horse. Um, and you're probably on the right side of the form pattern here, but um, you know, interested that Matthew Poon is the jockey that gets the call here when he's had three other riders before this. Um, but I thought he was at least a little bit interesting and one worth maybe taking a look at. But he'd probably be fourth choice in here. So 3, 4, and 1 for me. Where did you land, Matt?
Yeah, this is an interesting sequence because we're kind of way different throughout. I feel
Mm,
like, you know, I mean, I like the three, obviously. Like Super Express, he's never missed the board. Like, and especially in a pick three when they pay two places, right? Like, maybe you don't want to miss that if you have some value in other races, right? Like, if you're going to play two bombs coming into this, you know, if they're going to pay two places, then you don't want to leave that three out because obviously he's always finding a way to kind of at least be in the mix. That said, his figs look a little bit light, or at least like the weight's kind of caught up with him as he continues to move up. Like part of the problem with finishing second is like not only do you not win, you add additional weight every time you do it. So, obviously he's not way off in here. I do just think he's going to take too much money for it being a pretty flat race. So I'll probably still use him if I can structure a ticket, on some of my other picks. Like, do I want to bet Fast Network into him? Probably not. Do I want to construct a ticket, in the previous races with like the 8 and the 10 into that? Yeah, probably. So I'll definitely use him, but I thought other horses had, just as much of a chance and probably better prices in here. Um, my top pick is actually going to be the 8 Sunny the Best. And, I don't know. I'm not like completely sold on him by any means, but I do think that last race is just a complete toss. And before that, he's really running well and honestly hasn't really caught much of a draw at all this season, right? Like you see, he keeps going off outside of 8, 11, you know, 9, 13. Um, the two times he's kind of broken in the 8 post and in before last race, which, like I said, I think is a toss given he kind of got pushed out way wide. He's hit the board both times, and now he's back drawn in the 3 post. I do think that's indicative that like he can get a better trip here, right? He can actually work out something, and I think this horse has some ability that's just kind of muddied up given those bad draws, given he's kind of been forced wide every race. So I think he's back down to the right weight. I think he can, he finally catches a decent draw. I think he can run pretty well here. So I'm going to take a shot. I know he's going to be a huge number. I don't know from a pick 3 perspective if all my picks hit, I'm going to be, sitting pretty
Hmm.
nice, but I'm still going to try it. I mean, I think, just at least from like kind of that each way bet, I think the 8's going to be value in here. So I'm going to take a shot there. The other couple horses that I will use, I'll use the 7 Harold Win, probably was a B. I thought the last out at 1400 was a step forward. Um, I just don't know if he wants 1400, right? Like you kind of read that run line and, he was making up ground and then he lost ground in the straight. That was one of those races where it kind of had a big runaway leader that went too fast. It's just a weird ride from Bezzeni. It's one of those, if you watch the replay, like he breaks really well, but then does absolutely nothing with it. Like he's breaking from a 10 post. Um, and like he breaks on top, but it's like he knows there's other speed signed on. But instead of navigating down to the rail when he has an open path, he just kind of stays in that 10 post and like ends up a couple wide all the way around because of it. I don't know. It was a weird ride. I don't know if it was completely like what lost him the race. I don't think he could have rode much better because I think he was, just got bobbed for a nose for third. But I don't know. Maybe with a decent enough break, maybe with a better trip, maybe because of the post, he can run better here. Um, I don't know if Jerry Chow's going to ride much better than as any did, but I think he's worth a shot. So I'm going to try him here, just because I do think that last race was pretty strong, and it does look like he kind of continues to move forward. He has races at distance that definitely fit, so I think he's worth a chance. And then I think I'll use a little bit of the 2 in everyone's star. The draw stinks. I don't know what he's going to do with it, right? And it's weird because you had Zach riding this horse for 5 straight races, and he couldn't do anything with it. And so I don't know if that's indicative that he's going to get a much better ride here. He's got a worse draw. He's kind of been getting bad trips. If you have bad trips with Zach time and time again, to me that's probably just a horse that doesn't like being inside. So it's hard to say, hey, you're going to get a much better effort here. That said, I mean, he has been still kind of closing in even with those, wide trips. So maybe, I don't know. I might end up tossing this one entirely. But he does have races, I think, like with that ability. So if he manages to work out a decent trip for whatever reason from the 12 post, I do think there's some ability there. But is that likely? Yeah, probably not. So, most of my money will be through Sunny to Best. I do like Harold Win. I probably will use Super Express and maybe everyone's star will slot in as well.
All right, and then where did you go for your bonus brace?
I went to race 1. I think I'm going to celebrate with the time change, the last race that will go off before midnight my time. For the time being. So I'm gonna at least place my last bet before they start going off at like 1 in the morning and whatnot. Um, this obviously is not a great race. There's a lot of firsters in here. There's a lot of horses that are, don't have a lot of experience. Uh, my eyes went to the 3 in Classic Triple. Um, and just a couple angles, right? Like I think I've said before, Chris So, I love him firing with firsters, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of I think it's funny because I took him in 2 other races in here, and I'm like, oh, he's only good at firsters and he can't do anything else, and it's like, well, then I bet him in the pick 3, but firsters he fires, right? He's 13% first up, which again percentage wise is just above average, but for an ROI of like 547, right? So like he fires, he catches bombs at that, and he hits the board at double that, right? He hits at 26%, which again is barely above average if you think the average of like 12 to 14 horses are going off and hit
Mm-hmm.
a third of the time or a quarter of the time. That's about average, right? But the point is it doesn't pay average, right? People bet him like he's way below average because they just look at the raw numbers and they say, oh, he's like 3 for 56 at Sha Tin the last 2 months. He's not doing anything. He fires with firsters, right? Like the ROI is huge. He can get big numbers running really well first up, and they always tend to outrun their odds. And I made some decent money, betting each way these horses that are continuing to outrun their odds, and so I'll continue to do that here. Like, yeah, this horse trialed pretty well too, so maybe he takes money. Yeah, he's got a good draw towards the outside, so maybe he'll take even more money. Yeah, he's got its any up, so I probably shouldn't bet him at all. But I mean, I don't see much else in this race that really looks like they're going to do much of anything anyway. And for a trainer that's proven he can fire first up, I think you're going to get a huge price. So I'm gonna hopefully go to bed pretty happy if I can catch that one early.
Yeah, I went to race 5. Um, I'm gonna take a shot with the 9 Mega Mastermind. Um, this is just, I mean, people should probably know by now. I'm looking at races. I'm looking for races devoid of speed, and I mean, this is a race devoid of speed. I mean, Frantank has shown speed in the past, but the last 2 times out, I mean, he's just absolutely wanted nothing to do with the lead. So I don't know what's going on with that horse. But Mega Mastermind last time out did try and get up to the front, and went kind of quick. So I wonder if he didn't just do himself in a little bit. So I like the fact that he's actually stretching out, right? Because people are like, oh well, I mean, he went too fast going 1400. Well, I think if Abdullah is able to get this horse to relax a little bit easier, I think he's going to have an easier time getting the lead here, even though he is drawn in the 12th post. But I always love these speed horses when they stretch out a little bit. So I'm going to take a shot with this 9 Mega Mastermind. I'm hoping to get a pretty big price on this horse. But we'll see. Abdullah's not run back to how he was running last year, but we'll see how see if we can get it done here on the 9 Mega Mastermind. Anything else on this card?
Oh, not yet. I need to delve into the other races still. So.
Well, that's going to do it for us here on You've Got to Be Sha Tinning Me. Obviously, check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I am at Cherry Drank. He is at Slow and Steadied. Matt will have his full card picks posted up on Twitter, so check that out. Check out, well, Drank and Champagne, we covered Friday races, so you don't have to check that out. Well, check it out anyways. But it's
got a good shout out in there for some very nice people.
Oh yeah, of course. And then obviously we had our stream on Thursday night with the Wolf of Wolf Lawn covering Saturday's racing at Santa Anita, Tampa Bay Downs. Lots of stuff you guys check out. Have a good weekend, guys. Let's make some money.